Where's my camera? There's my camera. All right, everybody, welcome to the Malice Experience. I am, of course, Mr. Malice. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I have missed you fuckers. All right. Happy Satanic Saturday. I'm calling it that now. It's Satanic Saturday because it just works. The double S. Let's go. All right. As always, below me, under me, because he likes me on top. Fucking Mystic Salon.
Never gonna happen. Some great alliteration there, though.
All right. And we are joined this evening by Nate Bales. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, man. It's good to be here. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm excited.
I'm excited too, man. You guys do an awesome show, and I think it's gonna be fun to fucking dive into whatever you want and just and cruise through the evening, man. Good conversation, to say the least.
Exactly. So, starting out, let's do kind of like the usual shit, shall we? So, like, where's your starting point? Like, when did you get into, like, you know, the left-hand path and, you know, Satanism, whatever you want to call it, like, whatever it is that you kind of, like, follow? Like, when did you really kind of start really getting into it? Like, what was the click for you?
You know, I would say definitely in my teenage years, early teens, started to look more into witchcraft and forbidden spirituality. But that draw has just kind of always been there for me. I think the dark and the forbidden. I remember just being obsessively drawn to horror movies as a kid, and it was always the more demonic, the more supernatural.
Mm-hmm.
There was something there that just resonated with me, that just felt like home. And growing older, into my teens, you know, I came across Church of Satan and things that revolved around demonology. So it became this, I would say this spelunking into the research of that. But there was something that just always, say, vibrated with a realism to it. That it wasn't just bullshit, that there was something to that. And it was that deep intuition, I would say, that just really kind of pushed me to go up into libraries and see what I could find out about demonology, Satanism, and through looking into that, it just started to unfold different paths and rabbit holes to fall into. I'm sure, like most people. But once I started looking into it enough to where I could start putting together little pieces of the pie, it really came to, well, how can I apply this? How can I put it in motion and verify it? So it started off with just trivial spells and shit that I would come across, and different types of witchcraft, and seeing that even the smaller things that I was tinkering with, they would pan out, and it wouldn't pan out like instantly. I know so many people they want instantaneous results.
Mm-hmm.
But I would do these workings for things, and either they'd happen quickly or they'd happen slowly, but they would come around, they would happen. And even in that, it was still building. So I was starting to see that there is something to this. And that, I think, captured me to, I think, keep investigating it and keep investing my time, my energy, the obsessive pursuit into just wanting to pick it apart. And I remember Ouija boards. That was another thing that I was just obsessed about. I was totally fascinated with the layout of the board, and I think just the basic communication essence to it. And then it was this huge, I would say, diving into, well, how is it working? Is this something that's the it's the mechanics of the subconscious? Is it my hand pushing this? Is it somebody else that's going to be fucking around? Is it is this some type of a joke? Or is there some type of force that comes through and actually moves the planchette? And diving into that and having a good friend of mine as a teenager that would join me and put his hands on the planchette, we started to have some very interesting experiences, especially when we kind of set the atmosphere to be conducive to just the energy of that dark unknown. Putting candles, doing things at the psychically absent hours of the night, uh, between 12, 3 in the morning, after everybody's asleep, everything's dead quiet, and putting my fingertips on this planchette. It eventually came to a point to where when my friend was gone, I would bust this thing out at night and put my own hands on it and call out to different things to see like who's around. Or after a while, it would be more specific shades of the deceased. But what I started to see is that as I had my fingertips resting on the planchette, I would feel this pulling. This It felt like invisible strings in my knuckles.
Mm-hmm.
It would start pulling in a direction, and it was actually my fingers resting on the planchette. It would drag the planchette to where it wanted to go. But it was a completely foreign feeling, and at different times it would move at an aggressive pace or with a more finesse. And I remember starkly sometimes trying to see, well, if I don't want it to answer this, is it just me? If I would try to fight it, maybe try to get it to go over in another direction, maybe yes instead of no, especially if the inquiry that I gave was something that it's starting to give me an answer that I didn't want. So I would kind of toggle with that internally and kind of see if I could fight it, and it would start to go autonomously to different aspects on the board, and then different, depending on who I was speaking to, it would just speak with its own signature. And it got to a point to where when I'd have my friend over, I was using the board by myself. So depending on who we would call out to, and the answers that started to come through me that we were distilling into the messages from the board, he would write these down, and he started checking them out on his own. Like after he would go home, he would see if he could do his own research and start putting these little together and see if it would check out. And I remember him coming back about a week later, and he told me this before we actually got on the board the next time. He goes, to let you know, he goes, I went, and he goes, and I started looking up some of the shit that you were saying, that it was saying through you. And he goes, not everything. He goes, not everything was panning out. He goes, but an unusually high amount, a high percentage of those things were coming through that I could verify. So that got him into fucking going, there's something to this. And at the same time, I think it spooked the shit out of him, because after a while, he didn't like it. He felt unnerved, and I was quite the opposite. I was getting pulled deeper and deeper into it, and just wanting to see how far I could push things. And that started to lead to other things from there. I would say looking into different grimoires, finding out what they were and starting to research them, and feeling that same familiarity, that same energy that was coming through, that started really opening doors. If there was something that I was looking for, pretty soon there would be a way for me to get it. It would just come into my path. It would come into my hand. And everything just kind of started falling into order. as far as conveying to me the reality that this is a very real phenomenon. And I would say that was probably how I got started into it, uh, and it just snowballed from there.
Nice, nice. Yeah, Ouija boards, man. I have not fucked with a Ouija board. I am that shit scares the shit out of me. I'm not gonna lie. Like,
I love them, man, and you know what? I started out with the Parker Brothers ones, and not too long after, I remember making my own out of a picture frame. And I went and bought this like $10 picture frame from some hobby store that was just blank. And then I got like a black piece of a poster board, and I started writing all the alphabet and everything on there, and then started putting pentagrams and other symbols. And I remember at first I would use the planchette from the Parker Brothers one, and then that just led to me making my own out of different pieces of wood or glass. And I would take those little there's little softies I think that go on the bottom of coasters that
yeah.
just keep some things from being abrasive.
Mm-hmm.
And I would put that under there, and it would just glide on the glass of the picture frame. But as I was doing it, I would slowly start taking little aspects of it away. So it went from using it all the time with a partner to myself, and then from using it by myself, I would just use it with one hand, and then just lay back, kick back on my side, and just let this thing just surf and drift everywhere that it went.
Mm-hmm.
And even with that, as I'd start asking different questions, then I would start hearing them pop into my mind as it's starting to spell it out. So it's almost kind of like this. The synchronicity was changing from one aspect of it being more external to becoming more internal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's those little subtle things that really, I think, started to put together the working mechanics of different types of practical engagement with these forces. Invocation and pushing things to evocation. And I didn't get into evocation till I was a bit older. But and it's crazy where things just snowball, and there are those gateway things, just like a Ouija boards, and sometimes they'll joke and say gateway drugs. It seems like it's the same shit. I mean, you just don't jump into the hard shit right off the bat. You kind of play with it, and if it works for you, you'll push it a little further. And it's really the culmination, I would say, of a long journey, because you're not going to learn this shit overnight, and you're going to pull from so many different vast experiences, and the people that come into your path, they're going to plug in those missing puzzle pieces for some things that you've maybe stopped looking for, or gave up on, or just figured, fuck, it's bullshit.
Right.
And then something happens and just starts to connect those dots. But it's been a fucking awesome journey so far.
So, question with the Ouija board. So, when you're using a Ouija board, would you say that it feels more like a telephone, like you're communicating through the other side, or more like a window or a door? Like, how would you describe it? Like while you're using it, like how does that feel? Does it feel like just kind of like bringing something in the talk, or you're actually kind of like opening kind of like a path?
Great question. It seems, I think when you start kind of pushing through that dimensional veil with that higher intent and the conviction of breaking through that dimensional layer, it creates this sphere around you. So it's not so much like a window, but it almost becomes like a shared atmosphere. I guess the best way I would say it, using a board, would be if you were a blind man, or you just came and cut off your sense of sight, and then you put your hands on the board, it would almost be as if you could another person is there moving it. So you could it doesn't feel like it's like you're barely touching through, but it is a very strong, substantial connection, at least in my experience, to where I can feel the buzz of the signature of whatever that force is, whether it's something chthonic, it'll have kind of more of a lower vibration around, and you can feel that ancient intensity, but it's really giving yourself over to it and not second guessing it. Bring yourself from any fear, any doubt, and just relaxing into it. Even though you are sharing this atmosphere with something that is foreign, ancient, and completely dark, but that really seems to be the best way is when you match frequencies with these things, no matter what it is that you're reaching out to make that best connection. And that's always been my experience through the board, whether it's ones that I'm using that are my own, or if it's somebody else's board that I've kind of hopped onto to use with them. Is just relaxing into it, but not having that it's going beyond that trivial, I think, child's play about it of, is this real, is something going to come through, but you have to have that expectation, and that expectation really is so important in so many other aspects of magic. That full immersion, that full expectation that what you are making contact is legitimate and that it's coming through all the way. And that's when you can kind of get your own self out of the way, everything seems to intensify. But yeah, I would say using the board, it feels like we're in the same space, not like I'm breaking through a window or that they're not here, but something's just kind of pushing and edging through it. Uh, but they are actually sharing this crossroads of a bubble in reality with me.
Nice, nice. That was very well explained. So after that point, so you're kind of like, so this is kind of like, sounds like kind of like your dabbling phase, right? Kind of like you're getting familiar with how things feel, how things interact with you, how you interact with them, right? When did you kind of move the piece forward and say, I can become more with this?
You know, that probably wasn't into my 20s. You know, my mother was non-denominational Christian, so she kind of raised me with that mindset, which was, I guess, a double-edged sword. I'm looking back, I'm actually happy that I was, because I think had I been raised in more of an atheistic household, I wouldn't have really put too much stock into spirituality, as far as something that is real and can be applied in this world with tangible results. So on the other edge of that sword was this kind of a, not so much of a fear, but I think it was almost kind of like a handcuff, like what I'm touching is evil and I shouldn't be fucking with it. And I started to see that, and I had enough experiences to really, I think, confirm with myself that this is real and that it works. But at the same time, as a teenager, I just saw that it was only being used, or I only thought that it had the capacity to be used for trivial shit. So I'm thinking, well, if it's only little tinker toys and little bullshit results that I can get with this? You know, why risk my immortal soul and all everything that could come with that? by tinkering with it at all. But once I was older, and I really started to question, I think, spirituality more in a larger sense, and really started to slowly divorce myself from that dogmatic prison that I had been brought up in. And I started scratching my head and going, well, how far could you push this? What's the boundary on this? What is too far with magic? And how far can it go? So that's when I really started looking into things like evocation and these different forces, these different spirits. As I go through the spiritual catalog of things like the Goetia and see all of these things that were these surface fortes of things that they were influential specialists of. Then I started going, well, maybe I can push this a little bit further than the trivial shit. And that really just started to kind of unlock, I think, my imagination of going, well, what do I want? What would I change? What would I do differently with myself if I actually had the ability to establish a working alliance with these intelligences and give them the license to come into my reality and start rearranging the cups. And even in the initial stages, there was still a hesitation. But that frequency that has just kind of always flowed through me, where I felt home, was always pushing the envelope. Like, well, darkness just seems to be my own frequency, my own comfort zone. These beings, no matter how dark or how malevolent that they were described as or they seemed, they just seemed like my cup of fucking tea, man. And little things would just start happening in my life to accommodate bridging that gap. And coming into the right crossroads, I would say, with the right instruction manuals to actually give me the push, and also I think the reality, the understanding of where I was at on this incremental journey to start plugging those pieces together, to start going, oh, okay, so this is how I can actually start to establish contact on a whole new level to bring this thing through and give it license to work on my behalf. And I would say in my 20s, that's when things really kind of started to turn around. Going into my 30s, and I had thrown religion over my shoulder and just jumped in, did a swan dive, I guess, into darkness fully, as far as giving myself over to the limitless potential that I saw that was there. I don't know if I can keep rambling, but I don't know how far I'm going to take this off road and off the path before I start getting in the weeds with some crazy shit. So is there anything specific that is in...
I think, I mean, the interest, like, for, like, on my end of it, is kind of like that awakening point, right? Like, I mean, you're kind of covering that, like, so, like, it's kind of like understanding that all right, this isn't just for, asking for shit. This is, creating a connection that is deeper, stronger, more powerful, more eternal than, I want a fucking Ferrari.
Exactly.
And
I'm seeing
I think
I'm seeing more of like an analogy thing, just to how analogous the so many different spiritualities or thought processes or occultists. It's almost like everybody is on a completely different path, but they're also on the same path in its steps, in its evolution process, whether regardless of where that lead is into. And I'm finding it very fascinating. So to me, there's no path. I'm enjoying this. And
You
I'm
know
trying to
what,
figure out
man?
all your tattoos too, because I'm obsessed with tattoos. So we'll have to get to that
Um,
at some point.
oh yeah, man. It's endless. And but I love what you said. I love what you said. It's pathless, and that's, to me, that is what the left hand path is to me. It's the pathless path, and it's magic is a tool for that person who has decided to leave the village of everything that's known and is comfortable, and to really go tackle, I think, that dark mountain, the unknown and forbidden. And there's no guarantees, and it really takes fucking balls to just take your resources and go carve your own path, to grab that lantern and just go into the darkness. And it's fucking dangerous, man. I would not take that away from anybody who wants to say that or even joke around initially that it is, because it absolutely is. There's so much that can be lost, and it's really, I guess, analogous to Columbus jumping in that ship and saying, "Man, the world ain't fucking flat." And I know that if we keep fucking sailing out there, in my fucking heart, we're gonna fucking hit that new ground. And it's I think that's the journey, especially out for the grail of I would say immortality. So you really have to take what you can find, as far as resources, and then you need the courage to be able to jump off the fucking road. And the nice thing is that a lot of these outlaw forces uh, can give you that illumination, that guidance. Or if you're looking to go carve your own path, if you're looking to go investigate the darkness, or if you're really just trying to find a way out of this system. And getting into that is a whole different subject.
that's true. That is a true statement. I've always looked at it, how I do things, as if you're going to knock on the door, don't run away when it's opened. Right? Like, I mean, you're going up to it, you're knocking on the door, you're trying to get through, you're trying to get to the other side. Once that door opens, walk through the fucking thing. Like, be ready to walk through that door. If you're not ready to walk through that door, then don't fucking knock on it.
Thank you. I could not agree more. And I'll do different consultations with different ladies and gentlemen, and I'll get into that aspect of it. These beings can open amazing gateways, doors of opportunity in your life that just would never come under organic circumstances. However, just like you said, if you're knocking on that door, if you're asking them to give you this opportunity, you fucking should be damn well prepared to walk through that door and seize that fucking opportunity. And I remember talking with this guy not too long ago, talking about different aspects of packs. And I think the example I was using was was just somebody who maybe had like a garage band, but they're an aspiring rock star. That's their dream. And they're saying, look, I'll do anything. I'll do anything to fucking make it big time, to make it all the fucking way up. So they happen to come across an opportunity where somebody can open that door of contact for the right intelligences to reshuffle the cards in their favor. I said, okay, so let's say that you did call upon the right intelligence and you were able to enter into this alliance. And I want this. This is my heart's true desire. Come into my reality and reorganize things as you see fit and give me this opportunity. I said, all right, so see if that's been put into motion. You got this guy who's been tearing it up in his garage with his buddies, and they just been banging away doing bullshit. I said, now this is in motion. I said, the guy, maybe it's the lead singer, he goes out and he might see some flyer saying, hey, there's some party coming up at this club. So he takes that down and he starts looking to it, and something is just pushing him to go. So keeps his Friday night open. He goes to this club. He's in. He's not really recognizing anybody. Doesn't know anybody, but something's just telling him, hey, hang out and just stay. So as the night gets later, they're talking about it's gonna be last call before too long, and he goes up, orders a fucking drink from the bartender, and he's waiting for it. Then some other guy comes up, he's just in some black suit. He orders something, and then now he's searching for his wallet. Like, fuck, man, where'd it fucking go? I said, now all of a sudden this singer feels inspired to go, hey, you know what, man? I got you. His drink's on me. And bartender's like, cool. He throws down a fucking 20 on it, brings over both their drinks, and that guy goes, hey, man, I fucking appreciate it. You didn't have to fucking do that. But now he's got his ear. The singer has his ear. And after they shake hands and do some bullshit small talk, singer says, yeah, he goes, I work it over this place, but you know, I play in this band, and that's my main thing. That's my passion. The guy's listening to him going, oh, no shit. And he goes, that's a coincidence, because I'm a VP over at Elektra Records. So they're both just laughing about it. Now you have this chance encounter that probably never would have happened under normal circumstances. Things have been lined up, little tweaks and adjustments of reality for them to come face to face. The guy did this gesture of light hospitality, so he's got the guy's ear. Now, this is where it could get interesting, talking about the knocking on the door being ready or not. Once the guy tells him that he's a VP of Elektra Records and hands him his business card, if the guy had been totally passionate and prepared for this door of opportunity in multiple ways, he'd been keeping himself up, had the right fucking wardrobe on, had his demo recorded, had been carrying it with him just in case. Now he can whip it out and fucking throw it down on the bar, and the VP can go, you know what? Something just feels right about this. And I'm looking at you, man. You got that fucking presence to you. You know what, man? I'm gonna throw this in my CD player on the way home, and I'll check it out. From there, hey, who knows what could fucking happen? I just get that fucking record deal. Who knows? However, if the guy didn't give a fuck about his wardrobe, didn't fucking bathe, just totally fucking didn't give a fuck how he carried himself, didn't put any time, energy, or other investment into creating this demo, never would have had it. So now the spirit has created this opportunity for a door to open that may have never opened under any organic, usual circumstances. And you're either prepared to walk through that or you're not. And that's what it's all about. Especially, I think, jumping into working with these forces. If you're going to bring them into your life and your reality, you better damn well want it. And if you're not prepared, if you don't give a fuck and you open the door for these things to come in and start reshuffling the cards of your life, you can find yourself hella worse off than before you even knocked on their door, so to speak. So I do love that. I do love that example that you brought up, man. So I just wanted to run with that a little bit.
No, it's good.
No, it's a big deal. Yeah.
There's another thing that you mentioned in that story that I think is like kind of like, or in that kind of example that's extremely important for people to understand, in my opinion, when it comes to working, on this path, is the shuffling of the cards analogy that you gave. Sometimes, in my experience, when the cards get shuffled, shit needs to fall away. Shit needs to break off. And shit that you might not actually expect that needs to break off. And I think this is where people get this misconception that working with these forces and things like that it's a bad thing, because things that you may perceive as something good in your life may not be conducive to what it is that you want to be doing in your life. And if this is what you want to be doing in your life, and you ask these things to come in and say, hey, help me do this thing that I want to do in my life, and they say, well, all this shit around you needs to fucking go. Like, if this is what you want to do, this shit, and they're going to start fucking knocking pins down. And then you're going to be sitting there going, well, fuck, what the fuck is going on? You need to understand that breakaway is important. It's what I went through when I first started really getting to it.
Oh, hell yeah, man. You hit it. That's it. And that's another one of the big perils about walking that path is you got to be ready to let shit go. You got to let that decrepit porch just crumble all the way down before you can fucking rebuild it. And a lot of people get spooked, man. There's attachments that they have. You don't want to let go. Like a job or something. You recruit a force to come into your sphere of reality to set you up for a better job opportunity. And hey, you may find that everybody at your job starts to fucking turn their back on you, that the supervisors there start to fucking hate you, and they're finding a reason to fire you. And if you go with it, if you just kind of let things fucking push and you let the momentum from behind the scenes push things in the right direction, that's where but that's the scary ride of it. You don't know where the fuck it's gonna go, but you have to trust into it. But then that's where other opportunities can come along and give you that doorway to go through for a better career or whatever it is that individual had asked for. However, you get those people who are spooked and they see everything starting to crumble around them, and they just hold on. They don't want to fucking let go. They hold on to that telephone pole in the storm, man, and they just start to get blasted. And it's like, fuck, man, now you're not going to be prepared for another opportunity, and you're going to be in this job, and it's just going to go fucking swirly.
Yep, exactly. No, I mean, for me, like, my experience included, like, divorce, moving, like, separate, like, just a lot of things just kind of, like, breaking apart and falling off. And It was the best thing that could ever fucking happen to me. It's like the best fucking
I went
thing.
through the same thing. Could not agree more. The exact same thing. And I could not be more thankful for the life and the tier that I've been set down on after that storm got put into motion. But it's a scary motherfucker when that whirlwind comes and picks you up, man. And it's just it's trusting in it, trusting in the whirlwind that it's gonna set you down in a better place than it picked you up from. But if you can't trust in it, man, you gotta get the fuck out. You gotta get the fuck out of that storm, or it's just gonna fucking destroy you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what these things are. Once you bring these forces in your life, it's you gotta acclimate. You gotta adjust your frequency for the intensity of what it is that you bring into your path. And if you can't, or you're not willing to, find that exit, close that door, get the fuck out of there, because it'll fucking smash you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of my personal philosophy and my experience with working in certain experiences with the direct adversarial force that is Satan. Found Satan to be a fucking bulldozer. When you recruit it for certain circumstances to where things need to be destroyed, or where that adversarial current is appropriate. But once that has been achieved, that door, I found that it needs to be closed. If it's given license to linger, it will definitely continue its own nature. Its own nature is adversarialism, and it will find some way to make itself, to flex and put itself into motion. That's where magic and working with certain entities becomes not only like a toolbox, but working with certain specialists. There's certain circumstances that one may want to work with somebody who's in the mafia, but after that job's done, you may not want that mafia motherfucker coming into your house with your family, following you around on your daily shit, and just going through the rest of your life with you. Not that he can't be helpful here and there, but I found that it's much better to call that motherfucker up in the mafia, that soldier, that capo, whatever it is, under the appropriate circumstances and situations as is appropriate for the essence of what that power is. And yeah, I think there's been plenty of times where I've actually jumped into becoming and shouldering and putting myself into a full aspect of what I would respectfully call a true Satanist. But then there's times where I take that off and I bring in a different aspect of construction in my life. But it's and I know we touched a little bit before things went on in just our friendly conversation earlier about working with certain entities and not just trying something out, but really getting into that intimate connection, that understanding of melding together and becoming intimately fused, I think, with the nature of what that is. And I think there can be, especially if somebody's going to be going through and really wanting to garner a deeper understanding of what conscious force of Satan is in their life, it should be done so, and you should put yourself into that trench and ride that wave. But then I think that door, after a certain amount of time, needs to be closed, and that person needs to step back and ground from the experience. There's a lot of magicians that I see that voraciously throw themselves into very intimate possession work, and then they don't take the time to acclimate from that, to distill from the experience, to be able to absorb and transmute the knowledge of that walk into a more profound wisdom. I've seen a lot who just kind of hopscotch from one to another and not really taking that break, especially since this is the dimensional reality that we live in. Is this physical space? This is our ground. So you do need to take time to make sure that you have your physical health, your mental health, your relationships, your worldly affairs here in order. I think before you plunge yourself into the next water slide of insanity with the next beast that you could be rolling with.
Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I mean to cut you off.
No, man. Go right ahead, man.
So, I mean, one of the reasons why. So, I know there's a big within the community. There's like kind of like a big debate about Baphomet, whether Baphomet's an actual entity or rather just a representation. For me, Baphomet is I treat Baphomet as an actual entity. I don't look at Baphomet as a representation. Now, one of the reasons why I made the decision to work directly with Baphomet is the epitome of balance. And
Absolutely.
with that and having that dedication to Baphomet, so a ritual for me is extremely simple. I listen. So creating the order of Baphomet, there's a reason why there's only 3 tenets. It's super simple. It's learn, teach, and silence. That's it. So those are the 3 tenets. Learn as much as you can from everyone you can all the time. When an opportunity presents itself and you're capable of teaching somebody something they're willing to learn, teach. And if you can't figure out whether either of those 2 opportunities kind of fall into place, be silent. Shut up and listen. Because an opportunity will present itself if you keep your mouth shut. And
3 more. Excellent tenets.
and
Easy to remember too.
and with that, that's what I do. I listen. What do I need to know? Not what I want. I don't give a fuck what I want. I can work for what I want. If I want a new computer, if I want a car, if I want a house, that's work that I need to put in. Right? Like, so that shit's there. I can do that. I don't need a spirit to help me with that. What I want is I want to understand this shit that's going on around me. Like I want to understand what people can't see or what people are afraid to see. I want to see that. I want to be a part of that. I want to be into that. And the beautiful thing for me with Baphomet is that breakaway happens constantly, because once something comes into my life that threatens the balance of my existence, it very quickly finds its way the fuck out.
As it should, man, and I love it. And I love that's a great, I think, concise breakdown of Baphomet, and that's been my experience too. It is an intelligence all to itself, and to bring those extreme polarities together in balance, which is just it's insane. It's beautiful. It's everything about it is a catalyst to unlocking further understanding, further capability, further expansion, I would say, in every sense. And that's what Baphomet has been for me, absolutely. And that's where I think that's where it's at, is being able to balance, to be able to bring things back, to be able to go to the farthest ends of the darkness that you can, and then come back from it and keep distilling, to keep growing, keep expanding. But once something becomes out of sync for too long, everything else suffers. Everything else starts to diminish and corrode, and then before you know it, it's that harmony that sustains everything here is destroyed. So that is absolutely a danger of the left-hand path that I see is in one aspect, insanity is a requirement to jump into this.
Yeah.
It'll take you, and you need to be able to have that trust fall into I think the greater powers and the unseen things that we don't understand, but the potential that's there. And then by that same blade, if you go too far, yeah, you end up being Icarus in the fucking sun. So it's
Yep.
it is a tempered walk, but it's one of balls. It's one of patience, dedication, and balance.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, man, I'm completely with you on that.
I think the way that I've always defined the left-hand path, for me, is the being on the left-hand path and what people would describe as being dark. Because let's face it, I mean, most of us black is our favorite color. But the way that I look at it is being on the left-hand path, we don't deny that the light exists. We're very well aware that the light exists. But unlike people on the other side of the aisle, we also embrace the darkness that's there, the darkness that exists. We embrace both sides of it. The analogy that I like to give is to say that, let's say you go out into the field and there's this beautiful red flower in the middle of the field, and the light glistening off of the petals is just inspiring to you. It's something that brings you joy. You don't hate the night for taking away your ability to see the flower. You understand that the night has its own purpose, its own necessity to exist, to bring balance. You embrace that nighttime. You embrace that rest, that rejuvenation, that regeneration. You embrace that aspect of the night. You don't hate it.
Great analogy too. I think that's beautiful, and I completely agree with you on that. Yeah, you know, it's being able to, I think, to really step into your own on that individual basis, and just being able to recognize what's appropriate, see the true beauty in things, whether it's in lightness and darkness, and be able to push that boundary for sure. That's a beautiful analogy, man. I love it.
So the next part of this is, so we're kind of touching a little bit here on talking about like working with one entity for a certain period of time, or kind of going around and working with other entities. So to somebody that's kind of just starting this out, and we'll use Satan here as an example. So they start their journey working with Satan. When do you think, and understanding obviously that everybody's different, but what do you think somebody should look for to understand maybe they should take a step back for a second and kind of put the bull back behind the door?
You know, that's a great question. I would say, I think there's certain prerequisites that need to be had before somebody can even think successfully, even in the beginning, take steps that are constructive and that build. Yes, and there has to be, and it's hard because I know that initially everybody kind of dabbles. There's the big question of, is this fucking even real at all? But I would say if you're going to intentionally invite these forces into your life, you have to be willing to give yourself over to that force. You have to be in harmony with it. And if you're not, if there's lingering fear, if there's doubt about it, these things have the key to your front door, to your car, to your life, and they will absolutely start to stir shit up. And again, that's where you either have to be, you have to look yourself in the mirror and say, I called for this fucking thing to come into my life. Uh, Things are starting to get rocky, and you better be willing to, I think, strap yourself in and fucking go with it. Or if not, that's where you really start, you need to start backing out. And that could be if there's this anxiety, I think that you can't conquer. It keeps coming up and keeps turning and transmuting into something more destructive. But if you're not garnering anything from it, I would say in a positive sense, that's absolutely something to step back from. And I'll have most of the time. I think it comes down to patience. There's so many people who just they want those instantaneous results, and they aren't patient, or nor are they willing to just plant that seed and wait for it to grow, wait for it to sprout out. But not only plant that seed, but to also water it and to fertilize it and do what they can to be a conducive partner in this growth of what it is that they are looking to cultivate in alliance with this. But I think that, and I look at things a little differently, where they eventually converge into one and the same. But I do like satanic philosophy, and I think that it is something that is good for people to actually start to, if that interest is there, to investigate, to meditate upon, to dissect, and to reflect how it can be applied. And my experience is that there's a whole different road when you actually make conscious contact with that intelligence and you bring it in full bore into your life. Again, I love to use mafia analogies. So it's one thing to kind of research and do your due diligence at understanding maybe what a certain mafia family is, how they function, the inner mechanics of the hierarchy. And then it's a whole different deal to actually go and confront somebody and just try to make that initial connection with somebody who is fucking made. Completely different. But I think that it's going to help if that's the type of lifestyle that somebody is seeking. Yeah, do your research, educate yourself on that. And if those things resonate with you, keep stepping forward, because you don't want to jump into shark-infested waters and then start doing your research afterwards. But in my experience, there's different levels of reality that people can access through this, and it can be symbolic, it can be philosophical, and then there are others who can push that boundary further and penetrate the veil, and make contact with very intense contact with, let's say, the embodiment of what these forces are. And when you do, it's a whole different fucking game. It's a whole different game.
And
And
I think people really make I don't want want to say a bad choice, but something you said kind of reminded me of something. We've talked about this before, where getting into or learning into anything that is unknown, hidden, occult, and all that stuff, everybody's searching for the end, like where we're going, the destination. It's always point A to point B.
Right.
Once you recognize, in most cases, in my experience, that, and this is going to sound really hokey, but it's true. It's the journey. It's the pathway and all the stuff that's in between those 2 points that really gives you what you need to, work through what it is you're trying to figure out, or achieve, or manifest, or get. And I find it interesting, again, how similar some of the experiences are between different people, and we've heard it before, where it's that instant, not gratification, but that desire to have the instant end piece, and then you have it, and what happens every time when you immediately get that end, you get bored with it and you move on, or it didn't fulfill you the way you expected it to because you didn't take all the steps and pieces in between.
Oh, totally.
It's the process. It's hokey, I know. It's very cliche, but it's what I see. Like 95% of the people that I talk to that are unhappy or not finding what they're looking for, it's because they're looking for the end perfection of things. I'm like, the stuff that you just fuck up, screw up, whatever. In the middle, we're past 5 minutes, I forgot. The stuff that you fuck up in between, that's what is actually gets you to figure out how to communicate to different, whether you call it an entity or whether you experience it, one thing, spirit, whatever.
Sure.
It is so critical to spend that time walking the path that you're making, not just cutting the trees down to make a path because you want to get to the other side.
No, absolutely. And it's such a long process, and I hate the words like fucking master and all that bullshit, because I think that even if one does truly become adept, you are just preparing yourself for the beginning of the journey. All that's really happening is you are becoming proficient at being able to engage a particular application of moving power and applying it, but that's not the end of the game at all. You are empowering yourself to be able to just embark upon that journey that I see as the left-hand path. You've looked away from the village and you said, I want to go up to that mountain that extends beyond those fucking dark clouds. I want to go see what's up there for myself. Get myself in shape. I've got my supplies. I've learned how to use them, become proficient with this shit. Hey, now it's time to go. And by doing that, I mean, it just gives you a better chance at least being able to fucking make it as far as you possibly can, as opposed to just jumping out and just leaving one night and saying, I'm gonna fucking see what the fuck's out there, man. I mean, you get eaten alive. But almost like in martial arts too, it's going through this training. I mean, and somebody gets their black belt. I mean, you've just become very proficient in that system, but it doesn't mean that you've mastered it. I think that somebody should always be a student, always have that open mind, because that's the only fucking way. If you top out and you think that you know it all, man, or that you've hopscotched straight to Z at the end of the journey, man, I mean, it's done. You've just hit your fucking ceiling. But to always keep that open mind that really I know nothing and I've gone nowhere in the big picture, man. And I think to have that grounding, humble aspect, but the ferocious hunger and desire to always just keep pushing and seeing how much of this Maya you can tear down, and never be happy with it. To just keep fucking going, and that's it, man. That's the fucking journey.
Well, that's why like the first tenet that I set up was learn. is so
Perfect.
people that become involved in the Order of Baphomet understand that you're never the master. I mean, I set the fucking thing up. I'm not a master of anything.
Right.
You know, I just slapped a name on an organization to bring people together. That was all I fucking did. I'm not a master of shit. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's it. Absolutely. You try to lead by example, but you're gonna fuck up, and we're all human, and you do the best you fucking can, but then you come back and you try to take those tenets that you're talking about and fucking reground them, re-implement them, and keep pushing forward with it. But yeah, man, I'm 100% with you. It's a journey that's limitless, and just to keep pushing forward in it, and know that there is no fucking end to it.
Exactly.
I mean, that's the fucking thing, man. It's the black journey. There is no pinnacle of it. No matter where you go, there's gonna be more undiscovered country out there. So
I don't
No,
think
exactly.
I don't think I've met anybody that's been like, you know, I'm on my path. I'm going to be. I love this one. I'm going to ascend, or I'm going to make it to there. Every single time you've ever been through that pathway and you've gotten to your destination, what happens? You have just started over at the beginning of the next one, and it's the same. The cycle of, you know, if you believe in reincarnation, the birth, death, all that stuff, it's the same thing over and over. And when you realize it, you start to enjoy the path a lot more. I mean, that's true just in mundane life. My life got exponentially better when I just realized that it doesn't matter where I'm going. I just got to enjoy the ride. And I can steer. I can drive. I can take the wheel. I can go off-roading. Can do all those things on the way there. I might get there a little bit. It's same traffic. I don't get frustrated in traffic. That's more time to listen to podcasts, more time to listen to music, more time to, you know, scream Vanessa Carlson at the car next to me to look like an idiot. Whatever it is that you do.
that's it.
Such a big part of it.
Oh, I love it, and it's true because you know, the juice is in the fucking journey, not in the checkered flag of it, and that's exactly what it's all about is taking that fucking time. And in fact, with the entities that I work with, especially on a regular basis, that's something that they've come around to tell me repeatedly, and that is, you're right where you need to be, right where you should be. And sometimes I've had that confusion of like, or that a distraction, or the depression of going, why am I not further? Fuck, I wanted to be further. I thought I should have this done by now. And they come back and they go, don't fucking worry about it. You're right where you need to be right the fuck now. And then I'll look into the periphery of just the omens of little things that are going on, and it reflects that truth over and over and over. It's like, fuck, I guess back then wasn't the time to do this because there's other shit's happening. Man, I hear them fucking laughing at me. What do we always tell you? You're right where you need to be. You're right where you need to be. No less, no more. And that just falls into the journey that you're talking about, taking that fucking time. There's no reason to rush through any of it. It's the journey. You absorb. We're constantly learning, and honing that and refining it. And it's not an overnight process. It's limitless. But I love the journey, man. It's just like you said, man. You shut up, you absorb in it, and you listen, and then you regurgitate it when it's right. So I love
that's pretty much that's pretty much what it is. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's the thing though. It's like you can't look for the destination. That we all have the same destination. You're gonna drop fucking dead one day. That's it. Like you want to go to the destination. Well, that's where you're going. It's not a big mystery. You know, you got to be in it for the journey. Like you know where you're going. Every single one of you in chat, every single person listening to this in the pre-recorded, every single one of you, you know where you're going. You don't know when, you don't know how, but you know you're gonna get there.
That's it. I mean, it just keeps fucking marching forward.
And the beauty of it is we have all these opportunities to pull from so many different areas if you just listen and have the conversation. And you can formulate any car you want, any road you want, any path you want, and you can make it happen. Sometimes you need to sit in the passenger seat and ride along to recuperate or be lazy, as some people would say, and sometimes you're driving.
You know, I mean, basically in a nutshell, that's it. But I wish more people could see it that way, because that just comes back down to the balance that we were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
You can't always be regurgitating something. You can't always be silent. You can't always just be listening. It's taking the appropriate time, and those things shift and cycle as appropriately. And it's just the fucking, it's just the process of that limitless ascension. And that's, ascension should never stop.
Exactly.
You should always fucking keep ascending, man.
I love talking about balance more than anything, because we always are like, we have this 50-50 thought of what balance is, and that's just matching. That's equal. That's not balance. When you are pushing over that edge, sometimes you have to push yourself out of balance to see where that foot's going, to put that next step in balance, because it's a forever thing, and it makes it more fun. These conversations make it more fun for me. I think we've talked before enough on shows. I don't consider myself left-hand path. It was never a thing for me beforehand, but the amount of stuff that I learned just from listening and being included in the atmosphere of it has taught me invaluable amounts of things to do differently. And I wouldn't do that, or wouldn't be able to do that if I wasn't trying to push myself out of balance sometimes, to get a little uncomfortable, to get a little bit of fear in there, but not be so afraid that you're frozen.
Oh yeah. I think there's that big misconception that people think that, balance, you need to be this this equation of being in balance constantly. But no, I mean, you to be able to gain traction and to make that movement, you got to come out of balance. But I think that it's just like rock climbing and stuff. But afterwards, after that extremity has been in motion, you do need to take time to come back and recoup from it, and rest yourself and absorb what you've been through. And then it's just that toggling. It's that push and pull. But all of that in the great picture is balance, absolutely. And so many people just, I think, look at it in one spectrum of it, and hopefully it's something that for most, it's through conversations like this of just giving something a different vantage and having people kind of talk about it and break it down, and conversation is always the best way to really kind of not only gauge yourself, but for people to be able to recognize that potential within you and exactly where you come from in it. So happy to be here, man. Happy to fucking be here.
Well, I mean, that's the point of this, right? Like, the point of this is to bring opinions and ideas and practices like yourself, practitioners, to the forefront and allow people access to pick your brain a little bit, kind of get inside of like the way that you think about things, because sadly, socially speaking, we are the murderers and any other long list of words that I'm just not going to use on a YouTube web show.
Right.
We're the bad guy. We're Scarface in that scene in the bar, in the restaurant, right? I'm the fucking bad guy,
Yeah. Oh yeah, classic. Love it. Yeah, no, point your fucking finger at me. I'm the fucking bad guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing all day tomorrow. Movie day
All
tomorrow.
right. Yeah, I think I'm due for that one. I picked it up on 4K and it's just kind of been sitting, man. So I don't think it'll be long before I throw it on myself, man. That's a classic.
Yeah. You know, but I mean that's what we end up being. Every single one of us, that's what we end up being. I mean, we're the ones that are still kind of like hiding in the shadows, and then people say, well, you know, if what you're doing isn't bad, then why do you hide? Well, because the stupid motherfuckers like you that want to fucking, you know, nail me to a goddamn cross, you know, because I believe in the shit that I believe in, right?
Yeah, it's rebellion against bullshit of the system. And are there some fucking scumbags out there that fucking that fucking shred forth with black fire? Of course. I mean,
That's just the human condition.
exactly. I mean, there's always the exception, but it's definitely not. I think the prevalent model for everybody. So no, it's good, and that's another reason why these discussions are invaluable. I think for people to come in and be able to look behind the curtain and just really kind of see the gears and the minds of the people who actually walk this path, and have open discussions about reality and what's bullshit.
Exactly. I mean, and it's not even just in Satanism or the left-hand path. I mean, we've seen it in Asatru, with Norse paganism. You know, we've seen the flip on that shit. We've seen fucking these neo-Nazi pieces of shit, fucking, you know, laying claim to an entire fucking religion. You know.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and it's just like, I mean, thankfully, like that entire community fucking banded together and said, "Nah, we don't accept you," you know.
Right.
Yeah, they said not today, Satan. I had to do it. I mean, it was right there.
So, you know, and we deal with that in our community in the left-hand path. There's plenty of motherfuckers in the left-hand path that, you know, are also in that neo-Nazi fucking bullshit rhetoric, you know, all that crap. You know, it's one of the reasons why, you know, and I have to bring this up every episode. I have to. You know, one of the reasons I'm so adamant about, you know, unifying, you know, having that unification. Not like a giant fucking coven. Like, I mean, the practice is solitary when it comes to the left-hand path. I mean, if you want to work with other people, then you can work with other people. That's perfectly fine. You know, that's what, you know, gets your goat going. But the idea is, you know, hold on, Mystic. I see the lips going. Hold on, bite your tongue. You know, but, you know, the idea is being able to protect each other, because I've gone over it 100,000 times. There are people out there that are gunning for us. There are. There are people out there and that have extremely large followings. I mean, just look at fucking John Ramirez. John Ramirez is the type of motherfucker that can fill a goddamn stadium to 100,000 fucking people.
Right.
You know, like, so all you need is that idiot that's talking about going on to a physical war ground with us, and one motherfucker out of 100,000 with a bunker full of fucking ammunition and guns, and sees a motherfucker like you or a motherfucker like me walking down the street and puts a two between our fucking head, like right in our head, because he thinks he's doing God's work.
You know, that's the risk too of walking this fucking path and truly embracing it. And yeah, whenever you can, I think, unify with the appropriate like-minded fucking people who do justice and in representing, say, the black gold of what's here. Yeah, it's invaluable. Then you get those dudes like John Ramirez, and there's countless other motherfucking schmucks who just give it a serious black eye. And it's tough because you'll have so many religions where there is a huge common mindset that is a certain empowering equilibrium on its own. And then when you get into the occult, there's certain aspects of the rebellion that are there, and then it splits. It splits into so many different smaller subsegments uh, and some people who are just as dangerous to it by the things coming out of their mouth irresponsibly
Mm-hmm.
as the opposition. But yeah, I think the right people uh, come forward, and over time, I think they're recognized as being able to bring the understanding and I think the recognition for the diversity and the potential of what this path really is. But it's not easy, and I do like the unification thing. I just wish there was more solid people, because unfortunately this path it's dangerous in the fact that it's a path of new exploration. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the people who end up walking this path, they're not prepared, they're not tempered for the journey, and they end up going over the fucking rails. And those are the people that everybody fucking points at, and
Yep.
makes the example out of. And it's you got these dudes who are out there homicidal, or the people who've you get these kids who barely have any understanding of this type of spirituality,
Mm-hmm.
and all of a sudden they're running with misconceptions and bullshit preconceived notions of what could happen or what could be done with it, and then they're killing fucking people,
Mm-hmm.
and then the fucking media zooms in and fucking says, "Oh, here's your leader of the fucking left-hand path. I mean, these are the people who should be fucking taken out." And
Mm-hmm.
it's difficult. It's difficult. So,
Well, it was kind of like I was reading some of the articles when that shit happened over in England
sure.
with that kid that murdered two people, and
Daniel's tamed. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, we're not going to focus on that part of it, but I do want to focus on the vernacular that was used by the absolutely dim-witted, irresponsible, rhetoric-driven media. So they drew a very stupid line between, they said, talked about Satanism and how Satanism is kind of more atheistic in nature and everything like that. But then there's this new kind of Satanism, which is left-hand path Satanism, which is the violent kind. And in a single swoop,
Oh yeah.
the media has labeled every single one of us on the left-hand path violent people,
Terrorist. Yeah.
pretty much. And it's like,
They
how
went
can...
further than that too.
Oh, they did. They did.
They went way further than that. It's ridiculous.
And it's like, how... And this is, again, that's another example of one of the reasons why we need some kind of unification. Because if there is a level of unification that can stand up and say, hey, wait, hold on a second. That what you just said is not factual and is not true. Let's redirect and look at what the fuck it is that you're saying. Because as it stands, we have nobody. We have no fucking PR.
No, I mean what you're doing and what I'm doing. I mean, voices that can I think articulately reach out and try to represent. That's all we can do, and I'm hoping that more people can step up to the plate that are, I would say, cut out for it, because it can do just as much damage when you have the people step up and go off the fucking rails with bullshit and things that they are not versed in and are not familiar with, and definitely do not represent well. And then the media just fucking runs with it, man. So it's definitely it's hard, man, because where do you find these people? And then there's so many different little slivers of Satanism and
Yeah.
this type of the left-hand path, and it's self-defined in so many different ways. It really, I think you can. Hopefully, there'll just be some more. I think prominent people who can intellectually and articulately represent what the path is, the difference, what we're not,
Mm-hmm.
and be able to intelligently engage the people who come to try to assassinate us as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And, yeah, I mean, because I mean that is it is kind of a weird catch-22, because I mean within the dark path there really isn't any edges. There's no rails.
Mm-hmm.
There's no definite boundaries. And within that limitlessness, you're going to have the extremists.
Mm-hmm.
It's just there.
Of course.
Is it as prevalent as these motherfuckers make it out to be? No. Is everybody? No.
It's the same thing in all groups, though. I mean, all groups have
Right.
their you know, they're the ones that go onto the fringe. You know, I think, you know, the idea is like, so like when we were 15 and 16 years old and we're in high school and we're wearing our band shirts and dressing all, we had chains hanging off our waist and shit, you know, when the moment we started telling people, yeah, you know, I'm a Satanist and shit like that, and we knew that people were starting talking shit, that we sacrificed cats and shit like that, even though we know we didn't, like that edginess, we're just like, let's just let them think what the fuck they want to think. You know, they're stupid. You know, they're being dumbasses, because you know there was no real consequence to it. People thought what they wanted to think, but there was no consequence to it. But now with the way things are going, with the media running with it, there are real life consequences to this shit. You know, all the way down to, okay, let's leave behind the violent consequences, the potentiality of like something violent happening to us. Let's just talk about work, for example, right? You know, you go to a job where you got to wear a suit and tie, let's say, you know, but at night, you know, you're in your robes and you're doing your rituals and shit like that, and somehow, some way, your boss catches wind that you're a Satanist. And let's just say he's a Catholic, or worst, a Baptist. You know.
Baptized as a Baptist. There you go. Of the Southern persuasion. It's not a fun
You know,
time.
right? You know, and that person, because of your religious background, finds a way to say that your work isn't good enough. Now you lose your job. You know, there has to be something in place to stop that from happening. And the only people that are responsible for that is us. Right? There are real life consequences to these things that are happening. And the thing is we could stop that from happening by first stopping the media from talking shit and saying things that aren't true. Because that article, Mystic read it. I gave it to him. There was so much, and we're not talking like a National Enquirer type of thing. This was like, you know, a major news publication over in England, like a respectable news publication,
Sure.
with spinning,
video.
Spinning so much bullshit about the left-hand path and paganism in general. It's just, there's so much rhetoric going around, and again, it goes back to the PR aspect of it. You're right. There is no limit. There really is no edge. It can keep going. But you're also right when you say that that's not the majority. And the thing is the people that just want to freely believe what they want to believe and go to work every day and get a cup of coffee with their friends and not worry about any repercussions for believing in something that people might think is a little different. There has to be something there. Again, I've said it a million times, I don't know the logistics of it 100% how that would pan out, but it is something that I'm actively working on. I've got names written down, people I want to talk to specifically about setting this up, because I want to start putting it in motion. I mean, what do you think? Like, how do you perceive what I'm talking about?
I hear you, and you know, I think it would be awesome to manifest and to be able to put together. With it come so many caveats. Um, what I Some of the big important issues that I think need to happen is those that are going to actively become a voice uh, need to have that commitment to wage that war and deal with the consequences appropriately as they arise. So, like that, when you have some bullshit fucking publication or a very prominent one start running off and spinning outright lies about this, and if it does pertain to somebody, then you gotta be, that becomes now your inherent responsibility to fight back, to publicly fight back. It's the only thing that you can do, even if it's a futile battle. But nothing's gonna happen. We're gonna get no traction if people just fall back, go back into the shadows, or make up their mind that it's a futile fucking fight. Unfortunately, the only ones that are really going to be able to push back are the people that can rationally defend the left-hand path to the public mindset collectively. And that requires that when they push, you have to step back up to the plate and push back. But there's also so many that claim left-hand path or have infatuations with different aspects of darkness in itself, that if they're the ones speaking up, they're actually going to do a lot more damage if they're not equipped to be able to stand up into this public spotlight of engagement and intellectually grapple with the people who come as the accusers. So it does. I do think it gets very complicated because there's so many variables. There's so many different components of what could take it in a negative direction. Even the people that identify with this spiritual path. But I think that if anybody is able to get any successful traction as far as is coming into the public eye as an open practitioner or representative of the dark path in whatever way it is that they identify with, those are the ones that need to also continually step up to the plate and defend it. And also engage people, engage that challenge and push back. And like you're saying, it is a war. So not only pushing back, but doing so through the very system that gives people that license and freedom to do so against us, which is also utilizing the legal system back the other way. So that's where lawsuits need to come through, and some devious lawyers that recognize the reality of the rights that are being infringed upon. So yeah, it's a complicated battle, but I think that it can be pushed by more and more people who decide to actually throw that dice, and they're going to embrace this lifestyle or what it is that they identify with, and go down fighting about it. And with that, in this day and age, comes a lot of risk, comes a lot of balls. I mean, it's a lot easier, like you're saying, to for the countless opposition that is out there, it's easier to, and for many, it makes sense to keep it a secret, to be a
Mhm.
closet practitioner so that you don't get fired, so that you don't get harassed, or so you don't get that crosshairs put on you as you're walking your fucking dog.
You're right. You're right, but
Well,
I think people, there are people, and I dare I say, I feel that you're probably one of them. And also from like what I've seen, like comments from Scarlett in the past, with talking about the unifying, that you're one of those people that wouldn't be afraid to kind of put up that fight, and neither am I. It goes back to something my dad taught me when I was a kid. He said, Malice, I'm not going to use my real name, but he said, Malice, there's always going to be a bigger, badder motherfucker out there who's going to beat the shit out of you. But what happens is when you get your ass kicked, you get the fuck back up and you become stronger because of it.
yes. You're absolutely right. I mean, that's the only way is if you get fucking knocked off the horse, you gotta crawl back on that motherfucker and keep pushing. Doesn't matter what took you off, bump in the road or somebody fucking dragged you off. But if you aren't willing to fight, then you got no business fucking in this anyway. So, I mean, that's the essence of what this path is. You have to be able to stand up to adversity in all ways, shapes, and forms, and be willing to swallow what comes along with it, the good, the bad, and the motherfucking ugly. And it isn't all fucking pretty, man. And but that's what I like about the path, is that your victories are won through perseverance and tenacity, and having the courage to fucking, and the balls to be able to fucking jump out and do what nobody else wants to fucking do.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the juice of its own reward in doing so.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. One of the things that kind of makes me kind of ballsy with my job, if anybody ever finds out where I work and wants to try to get me fired, the CEO of the company is a personal friend of mine, and he just happens to be a Satanist as well. So good luck.
Yeah, right. Fucking A, man.
So
That's fucking awesome.
So I know when it comes to that shit, my job's secure. Like,
that's sweet. That is. I mean, that's definitely a luxury I wish more people had.
Yeah. No, him and I have had many a nights of drinking and talking about ritual work and things that we've been through and gone through and things like that. Not many people in the company know it, but I know it because he knows that I am, and yeah, it works out. But I just feel we're not kids anymore. You know what I mean? And I think that with that, there are many people on our path that are doctors, that are lawyers, that are judges, that are in the police force. We're everywhere. We're not kids anymore, and I think that building something together is more realistic now than it has ever been before. Because it's not a joke anymore. This isn't just us, a bunch of 15-year-olds trying to be edgy and cool. We believe this. We build our lives around this. I mean, we dedicate spaces in our homes to it.
Totally. I think it really needs to be put out there on a much bigger level. That when you really boil it down to, it's self-empowerment. How you want to fucking slice it, no matter what entities you're working for, working with, working alliance with, what slice of the left-hand path or Satanism, it's looking for freedom, for that self-empowerment. How do I break the chains of bondage around me? And there's countless levels of where that could go, but it's not about destroying others, for hurting others, for being this this evil aspect that is wanting to consume, corrode, and just destroy everything that's out there. I look at black magic as being able to tap into all the different possibilities that enhance your own potential. And as we do that more and more as individuals, it turns into a collective benefit. Um, but it's interesting because of I would say the imagery that we adopt for others, just to be able to look in a very condescending swoop and put it all in one basket and look at things. It's either black or it's white. So there is no good. They're all dark. It's all bad. They're all evil. They're all killers. It becomes so easy to put this dualistic, convenient label on us instead of pulling back the fucking surface of it and dissecting it and really looking underneath, going, well, what's this all about? Why? Why do they do any of this? For what? And I think it's the most noble of any of it. It's to better yourself as an individual conscious force. How do I become?
Mm-hmm.
So these discussions, and I think having the right people to articulate that and put that out there on a bigger scale, I think will help over time. We'll start to begin this trajectory and a curve of perception of how we're viewed and what's really going on underneath the hood of it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I do this. I have this operation that I've been doing since 2016 called Four Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
And it's comprised of 33 different intense monthly rituals. And each and every one of those rituals is for something positive, benevolent, and constructive. Have a lot of fun with that when people try to approach me and sucker punch me, saying that, oh, you're this malevolent, evil, devious motherfucker. And I'm like, hey, go check out Four Thrones, man. Tell me what's evil about that. It's all about check protection, intellectual ascension, creating the foundation in a person's life that is conducive to growth, to security, to positive relationships, health, you name it, man. And
that's awesome.
That's what it's all about, man. It's about using these resources at your disposal in constructive means. I mean, and always the interesting thing is that they can be used however they're applied. They can be used destructively or constructively, but that's just power. Just like you could have raw power from any power plant. You can do some serious damage with plutonium, or you can use that same shit to fucking power a fucking state. So
yeah,
those are the contextual definitions that I like to bring to the black arts, the black magic, and even the identification that I use as a black magician, which just means that it's unrestricted. And it's how we apply this is what it boils down to. It can be used for destruction or construction, but it's however is deemed necessary. in that individual's journey going forward. Putting power into motion and putting yourself the journey of evolution.
Can I just say, you are an interviewer's dream. Like, you really are. Like, some people have such a hard time actually like elaborating on their answers and giving concise, detailed, answers to questions and ideas. This is the best interview, and I got to say this live. This is like the best interview that I've done in the last 2 years.
Hey, man. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate it. I can, for better or for worse, I can go on and on and on and on, but I try to keep it relevant.
No, I mean it's good. I mean, with Mystic and I, if you ever watch a show, it's just him and I. Like we start on A, and somehow we end up at fucking 29. Like it's like it's like.
I love it, man. I love where you guys take it, and it just it organically ebbs and flows just into some real interesting shit. And
so I do want to get into something else. Like we're kind of coming up on the end here because we normally do 2 hours, but I feel like we could easily go 3. I want to talk about ritual space, right? Because I know that you either have or are building an actual temple in your home, right?
Yeah.
And I know that. So, for example, Behemoth X, he has a temple in his home. By the way, everybody, if you're not following Behemoth X, go subscribe to Behemoth X. Dude is fucking amazing. Can't sing his praises enough.
All the way around. All the fucking way around.
I have been trying to get him on this fucking show for like, I think 6 months. So I've been trying.
I'd love to see it.
One day.
Joe,
One
get
day.
out here.
So me, for example, I don't have enough free space, so I have a section in my office, which is, my ritual space. So what would you say that somebody needs? What's the benefit, let's say, to having a temple, to having just an altar? Do you need an altar? Do you need a temple? Where does one come to that conclusion to say, okay, you know what? I'm going to spend $100,000 and throw a temple in my fucking house.
Sure. Oh, that could go so many different directions, but I think at the beginning, having that space, just even if it's just a bedroom, is invaluable. I would say over the years, somebody who uses a ritual space starts to develop, let's say, the internal resourcefulness of where a temple isn't necessary. It becomes a beautiful catalyst, and it's very conducive to the different energies that you're calling upon and working and implementing, I think, forward into creation itself. I would say in the beginning, having that ritual space that you can actually call your own. It's your own small little bubble. It's your own little sphere to divorce yourself from the normal waking world. And I would say to try to keep it neutral for the most part. It should be a quiet place where you can actually acclimate with the energies that you are seeking to connect with. And an altar, I think, is you can start out with something small. In the beginning, it's just it is a focused mandible of an anvil that you can alchemically create on. And that could be something you can put away and pull out as you need it, and use for countless purposes in it. But I would say having a general temple space is also benevolent because the more that you actually go into a singular space, and no matter what avenue it is that you are psychically engaging, and I would say windows of reality, dimensional reality that you are prying open and tapping into, starts to gain this solidification, this traction, this buildup. The more that you actually call upon and engage this in a singular place repeatedly. So the atmosphere starts to gain its own conducive flow to it. You have a place that you meditate repeatedly. That's where you go in the mornings, same place, at the night, same place. Um, but I would say having just a neutral spot. For me, I've always liked a blank bedroom, isolated, have the windows closed off, and in the beginning, I just had a very small, comfortable armchair. That's where I would sit, would close my eyes, and I would connect with the different entities that I was reaching out, seeking to establish that substantial contact with. And I would have a small little end table that I would put in front of me with a little prop to put different sigils on, doing different types of sigil work and connecting there. But it can go in so many different directions. The one that I'm actually in construction with now, I work with these 4 entities every month, repeatedly. So having a large temple that is dedicated to those 4 becomes its own conducive catalyst of intensification in every way, establishing contact easier, faster, being able to explode it outward with much more momentum behind it, being it this breach and barrel, this atmosphere that is intentionally and architecturally designed to push, harness, and move that energy. It becomes this multifaceted gateway in its own right, having an established temple. But there could be so many different temples for so many different purposes. Would say if money was never a factor and I could design my own temple to my own specifications, just how I wanted it, would probably have a large pyramid structure that was probably about 4 stories high, and inside it would almost be like an observatory. It would be black, it would be vacant. I would have a stone altar in the center of all this darkness, that as I stepped up as the priest of darkness in that moment, or the pylon of omnipotence in that moment, sending forth my desire, I would literally be working on the universal altar reality. There is no symbols, there is no boundaries, there is no limits. There is nothing that can encapsulate it. with any perceivable definition. It would just be limitless.
That just sounds amazing. I love it.
It would be amazing.
I love it.
If yeah, man, that would be my dream. Would be my dream temple. But so many different capacities and functions for different types of temples. And you know, you brought up Joe Behemoth X. I love what that dude does. He has a
Same.
beautiful temple of his own, and the candles, the focus and the intensity of what he surrounds himself with becomes this explosive hot rod conduit of being able to break down the veil in the work that he does and really accelerate things. So temples are, I mean, they're conducive. They're not absolutely necessary for people who don't have the room for one, or who do not have the privacy. You know, any little getaway, closet. It comes down to just being able to have focus.
Yeah, I feel like. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. And that focus, I think, takes different forms for different people. Some people can internalize it.
Mm-hmm.
Others really need, I think, the catalyst of having a physical space set aside.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, within the having the luxury of having a physical space,
Mm-hmm.
comes, I think, the funneling trajectory of being able to have the right light sources
Mm-hmm.
that are in alliance with the nature of what it is that you are seeking to make contact with, or to actually push forward into the matrix around us. The smells, the
Mhm.
visual atmosphere, the ambience of certain music, which is just a beautiful, sweeping catalyst in its own. You get all
Agreed.
of these things that are a soiree of senses that are all in alliance with the pinpoint desire of what is being pushed forward or pulled in. It's
Mhm.
a temple is just an amazing catalyst, but not an absolute necessity.
Gotcha. No, I mean, I think I got lucky. So with my house, so my office space, my office is probably about the size of a studio apartment. And so my idea, it's not, I wouldn't call it a temple, but it's everything inside of here is about self. So off in this corner, this is the reading and tarot corner. There's a couch, there's a light, there's a small table, right? So there's that space. I've got my gym equipment over there in the other corner over there. So there's building body, building mind for the reading corner. There's the spiritual part. There's, you know, my spiritual corner. And then there's where all of that, which is around me, centers, which is this space here, which is where I create, which is where I manifest the ideas and things that come to my mind through balancing everything around me. So it's not particularly a temple per se in the traditional sense that you would say what you see in Behemoth X's videos or what you're building yourself. But for me, this is where I work on every part of myself in one space.
Absolutely. You have a temple of forge, man, of the self. And in one corner, you, just like you said, you got a certain aspect of creating and hammering that aspect of yourself. And all of these complementary things that no doubt are powerful pillars in their own right. And that in itself is a beautiful temple to the self, and what promotes and I think is conducive to ascension and your own liberation and your own power, physically, mentally, spiritually, and creativity. You have all of those things there, and that's fucking awesome, man. That's fucking awesome.
Appreciate it. And then you got Mystic, which has like altars all over his house. How many altars do you have, Mystic?
A lot. We were lucky. We have a large house, and we took 2 rooms and kind of made them into our space. It's got our area where we create stuff. It's got our reading area with all of our books and reference things that we like to read, and it's just set up in a way that works for us. We have our different spaces for different things: ancestry altar, wall of friendship, of all of our people that we randomly meet, and just keep it all in one space. Thankfully large enough to actually even do rituals inside when we need to, and just are lucky with the space that we have. So but we definitely, I think we have maybe 6 or 7 separate, I mean, you can call them separate altars with one main in the center of that room, but the rest of them each have their own purpose.
I love it, man. I think that's perfect, and that's it's kind of the evolution that it seems like my own household is taken and still undergoing. But the whole house is basically a conducive temple in its own right, with different subsection rooms, and different altars to powers that I work with on a regular basis, and in all different shapes and forms, and the elements, and death, and the self, and life, and you name it, man. It's just, I think, incorporating all of those, and before you know it, you got an altar in this room, an altar in that one, and your whole living structure becomes this this architectural conduit to the spirituality that you're engaged in, and it's beautiful. So
I think
it's
the important thing for most of the people that are either starting out or just getting into it is what you said earlier about, altar, temple, magical space is not a requirement to do what you need to do. When I was younger, it was neat I would want to have one, but my first magical space was in a shoebox hidden under my bed. And you can bring it out, get your piece, you have your little thing, whatever you needed at that point. And then as I got older, it's more of it's aesthetically pleasing for me to walk in that space. Like it's almost like when you learn to meditate, the more you do it, the more automatic it becomes. Protection becomes more of an automatic process. But when you walk into your space, it becomes an automatic. Like you literally, you walk the threshold of where our area is, and it's immediate calm, and we're ready to go. Like there's not much thought process behind it. So you don't have to have this huge magnanimous big thing, but when you have the ability to create it and you do, it's very, very self-rewarding.
Oh yeah, I couldn't agree more. In that temple space, I mean, no banishing happens. So the residual energy in the footprints, the psychic footprints from when these things come in and take a cleat in this a consensual sphere of the crossroads that are created in this temple, that energy, that residue becomes a facilitating catalyst the next time and the next time, and it just builds. Just like in your office, man. I mean, just everything that you got there, it builds and builds and builds. And,
exactly.
No, I love it, man. That's some of the nice benefits of having a physical space, or whether it's an altar or a room or a shoebox. I love that, man. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, you do. I think the important thing, I mean, in my opinion, I think the important thing is finding a way to connect. Like, if you're capable of not even having a space and doing it all in your mind, like if that's something you're capable of doing, then that's a thing.
Absolutely.
Like, you get 5 minutes to yourself and you feel like you need to do like a little ritual in your head. I mean, for me, even though my rituals are very simple, because I'm listening. Like I don't call out. I just listen. I go to my knees. I don my robe. I go to my knees. I light my candles. I put the incense, and I just let it come in. I put my hands out because I'm receiving, and I just listen. And sometimes it's a half an hour. Sometimes it's 3 hours. It's dependent, on what it is I need to pick up on. But if you don't have that, if you can't have that, like that aspect of things, and you're capable of doing it in your head through meditation and putting yourself in that plane, to connect with whatever it is that you want to connect with, sometimes that's good enough. Like, I don't want people to feel like you need to have an altar. You need to have a statue of Baphomet. You need to have a sigil flag. You don't, are they nice things to have? Fuck yeah. I love my altar. I love having these things, my statue of Baphomet, my sigil of Baphomet, my goblet, all of these things dedicated to Baphomet. I love having them. Do I need them? No, I don't. I don't need them. The connection goes beyond that. And we have to understand that when we're building these relationships with these entities, with these demons, with these things that we're trying to call into us, that's the point. You're trying to call it into you, not around you, into you, to propel you forward, to push you forward. Now, do we see and feel that energy when we have the fire and the flames and the incense and the skulls and the bones and all of these things? Do we feel it? Yes, we do. It's there. But what you're bringing into you is spiritual. It's not physical.
Yeah.
So if you can't have it, if you're younger and you're living in a place where you can't have those things, understand that just because you don't have those things, it doesn't make you not a practitioner, because you don't have an inverted pentagram, or because you're not wearing a certain ring.
Draw one.
These things are trinkets. This doesn't make me a practitioner. It doesn't.
Exactly.
Yeah. One of the things that I have assimilated into my practice was Druid teachings, and we went through some of the Druid teaching programs, and one of the big pieces that's early on is the sacred grove, and it helps. It became before I had my altar at the house, and before Rook even was led into all of that process that I do, with craft and with magic, is when you can visualize that space. Because I'm gone 4 out of 5 days a week for work. I'm not home. I'm in a hotel somewhere. I can't get to my altar that I love here. Where do I go in my head? To what they would call the sacred space. It is the visual representation. And I literally, once you get into the meditation and you've gotten yourself into the right headspace, you're there. Like, in my brain, I'm sitting in that spot, in the altar room, in that place, or in that sacred grove. And like you said, Malice, and it's really great. And Nate, you said it too. It's the catalyst. It's very helpful as a catalyst to it. But when you don't have it, you can make it in your head. You can set it up that perfect temple in your head the way you want it. You'll see it, and that makes it a lot easier to me, especially when you can't be there.
Oh, definitely. And becomes this kind of a toral circumambulant power too, because when you can tap into that, when you can access that internally, and you can engage that on the level of invocation, then it can move outward. So not only can you take the things of your ritual layout, but you can now properly imbue them, which is different from the first time when you're kind of getting things and you're getting familiar with this and you're dipping your toe in the water. You got your thame, you got chalice, you got all these implements here, but they're just symbolic. So as you're looking at them, you can take that symbolism and then you start to actually access and tap into it internally, and go through more of an appropriate transmutation and a consecration of that, so that after you can access these for the purposes that they are in the astral temple and what you are where you are functioning there, now you can come back all the way around and you can take these implements and you can charge them with the purpose that they are to serve in your ritual, as opposed to in the beginning when you're just diving into it, it's just a hollow representation. It's helping you kind of get traction and unlocking your own power. And it is interesting that you can take the omnipotence that is within you and you would never need a temple. You can be a full-fledged magician in a jail cell with no clothes on. You don't need anything. But once that power is tempered inside, now be pushed from the inside out. Now you can actually take what was a vacant, cold temple with cold ritual supplies, and you can bring them to life. You can transfer that internal wellspring into the implements around you. And it becomes this amazing catalyst, the charged circle. The aspects of what you're actually using in the catalyst of giving that spirit in evocational cleat here in this physical world. Being able to guide and direct that power is limitless, but it all kind of is circumambulating through experience. And that's the beauty of it. It's what comes from within, flows to without, and same vice versa. You can take what's without and bring that back within. But in the beginning, there's this separation of thinking that, oh, I need these physical implements. If I don't have this thing, it's not going to work. I need to go over and get this particular incense, or everything's going to be a failure. But it's fun in the beginning, and I think it really sets a blueprint for the practitioner to further come to an understanding of the purposes that they serve in the first place, and being able to cultivate and unlock that ability internally is circumambulating. You can now take that power within and bring it into the world without. And it incrementally unlocks that awakening realization within the individual that there are no boundaries and that there is nothing too big that this can't tackle or be applied towards. But in the beginning, they're fun training wheels, and I think it really helps bring that focus and having that space. It's all conducive, and it all is momentum that creates and builds and builds and builds on the journey. And to eventually you cross that borderland into what the world around you would call insanity, and you realize that nothing is beyond your grasp.
Exactly.
You are only limited by your own perception of going, well, that's just too much. And as soon as you say that, then it is too much. You'll never fucking have it. But that practitioner that is always moving forward with the open mind and the perspective that anything is possible will always have that potential
Mm-hmm.
to manifest it and
Yeah.
to bring that forward. And whether it's the trajectory of events or a very solid manifestation and materialization of something, it really, the rabbit hole that magic takes you down is a mind-boggling engagement of the impossible. And I love the potential of where this can go, and the potential and the very real ability to break the governing laws that be here with just the mind. Mind that it's that launch pad. It's like the flux capacitor to be able to engage into the blueprints of reality around us and move and reconfigure it however we like. And it's just indescribable in every direction it can go, in every capacity that you could apply it towards. And on this journey, you constantly look over your shoulder at how trivial things were in your own perceptions on your journey, even sometimes just very recently. And then you have a conversation, even just a small conversation. A new facet plugs in. And a new aspect of realization is ignited within you. Like, wow, like, there are no boundaries.
Exactly.
There are no boundaries in any of this.
There isn't.
Yeah, you can literally push it as far as you can, and it doesn't mean that it can be done easily. A lot of the governing laws to be, especially within this dimension, are very strong and very complex. But does it mean that they can't be hacked? No, it does not. And that's what I love about black magic.
I completely agree. So another question, like, I could keep going with this, like, honestly, like, so I recently with King Paimon, or Payman, however you want to pronounce it, had kind of like, I've recently just started working with Paimon, or Payman, and that's because I've was starting to see like Payman like all over the place, right? And then I have the Occult Tarot, which is based off of the Goetia, so it's all of the demons within the Goetia. And so I did a shuffle, and I just focused. I think, who wants to work with me? With whom am I going to be expanding? You know. And first card I flip, Payman. So there's a lot of stuff that I like, all the other stuff I was seeing, I kind of ignored it because I was kind of like, well, you know, I'm an occult YouTuber, so like, you know, I'm going to see a lot of people working with, you know, their demons and stuff like that. A lot of occult YouTube videos are going to pop up. So I was like, couldn't ignore the card, right? You know, so you're seeing Payman all over the place, and the next thing you know, okay. Have you ever had an experience where you weren't necessarily thinking about working with a particular entity, but it just kind of fucking jumped out at you and said, hey, listen, motherfucker, you need to work with me? Like,
oh, plenty of times. And that's just like how you described it. That's, in the beginning, it would just be little omens, little things that would pop up. I could open a book, it would come up to that page, the spirit's name on it, see it on fucking TV, hear somebody talking about it, and they're like these little breadcrumbs that they just keep dropping for you. And when you open yourself and become observant and you start to notice those things, and then you go with it, you find that everything just kind of starts flowing. When that spiritual force is knocking on your door and saying, yeah, I want to integrate myself with you. We have I want to come into your world and be power in motion and do what I do. And you are at this perfect stage for being able to integrate yourself in catalytical ways with me, the entity. And yeah, I've had some pretty spooky experiences of entities just repeatedly coming into my trajectory and making themselves known. And it's funny because if you try to ignore it, they'll keep doing it. They'll keep throwing other things out at you, and until finally,
Yep.
you're just slapped in the face and you're going, "Fuck, all right." And they'll do it for the individual as is appropriate for the individual. Some people are hard-headed. Some people are short-sighted. Some people pick up pretty quickly. Yeah, King Payman, either way, I think either way is perfect. However it's pronounced is going to be appropriate in their engagement with you. When I call upon Belial, I'll find myself when I'm going through incantations and then throwing myself into a conjuration with Belial. So many different aspects of his name, Belial. They'll all come forward and they all just kind of come into this consensual soiree of that is the entity. You are trying to hit it from every different angle. But anyway, I've seen too many people lose their fucking minds over saying the spirit's names. And but King Payman, in my experience, is a beast, and I don't like to say he. I'll more appropriately just say it. Really seems to be a very dominating force, intellectual, intelligent force, just very profound influence. So many entities have a very specific forte of influence. And I've found with King Payman that his influence is almost boundaryless. I haven't really been able to pin it down as being something precise. His influence is immense. And I remember the first time that I did a heavy working with King Payman was I've been married twice. I was in my first marriage and had a very nice house, and the job that I was working overtime just started drying up, so I didn't have the income to be able to pay for this fucking overpriced fucking monthly payment on this motherfucker. So eventually things led up to where I realized that the bank wasn't going to work with us until we stopped paying. They don't give a fuck if you can make the payment every month. They don't care what you cry about. But once you stop making the house payment, then things turn up. And they start getting very concerned about, well, you gonna make this payment, motherfucker? What's going on? And they weren't willing to work with me in that situation as far as kind of putting things on the back end, or lowering the payment or any of that shit. And I had a first and a second, and I didn't know what I was gonna do, but I didn't want to get a foreclosure on there. I was just gonna fuck my shit up. So after looking into things, I was like, okay, well, I guess a short sale, which basically is the bank just gonna say, fuck it, all right, we'll we'll let you out of this. We'll just sell it for whatever the current market value is, and hey, we absolve you of your debt.
Mm-hmm.
Paid up. It's been assumed by the new owner. So I didn't know what the fuck I was gonna do, and I remember just flipping through the Goetia, and I was just going page to page late at night. Just I would take a few moments and just kind of gaze into the seal of each spirit, and some felt like they had potential, being able to help me, and I would start to follow that and see if it got hotter or colder. Other ones I'd come across, and it was just a strong no. Like, this is not the path. We're not walking this together.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember coming across Hyman's seal. It was his second seal. I know he has two in the Goetia. But it's the more traditional one that most people would recognize. And I just remember stopping there and gazing into it. And as I'm gazing into it, eyes are flashing, sigils firing, and it just kept pulling me in deeper. Something intuitively was saying, like, turn me loose on this motherfucker. Like, this situation is not too fucking big. Like, don't fucking worry about it. I will help you with this. And I remember doing this elaborate layout with King Pyman, and I was just charging his sigil, had everything in candles, everything set up in this temple to do not like a full evocation, but at least make a very strong, substantial connection, then imbue his seal with the materialization of my intent, my desire, which, as I sat there and I brought myself to go, well, what is this? What is the end result that I want? It was for me at the time. I remember just visualizing high-fiving my wife, and then us hugging each other and going like, fuck, we're done with this. It's over. Like, house is short sold. We don't have to fuck around anymore. We don't have a foreclosure. We're out of here. We have new options. And everything worked out. And so that was kind of like this little synapsis that I was visualizing simultaneously as I'm firing and gazing and establishing this very intense connection with Paimon through the gateway of his seal. And I went through the ritual, forfeited over my concern, my desire, gave that over to King Paimon, along with a symbolic transfer of the desire that I had, and pushed that into the seal. Ended up blowing out the candles, folded up the seal, and I went into my garage and put it on top of an old storage cabinet and just basically forgot about it. And things had transmuted so that at least my expectation was that it's going to work out. I don't know how the fuck it's going to work out, but I'm not worried about losing this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So as things are going forward, I got taken down some weird roads of like almost some scam artist motherfuckers trying to, oh, for $30,000 I can convince your banks to do this and get you the short sale and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, fuck that, I'm not giving anybody 30 grand. Negotiate on my behalf. But even though it sounded good, that was part of their hustle and shit. But anyway, I tried to find a real estate agent that could handle this, because I think at the time I owed and it was at the height of the big housing collapse. It was like probably 15 years ago or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a real fucking shit show just in the economy. And at the time I owed about think it was like $460,000 on this fucking house.
Damn.
Now at the time, it was only worth 170. That was the current market value of that motherfucker. I owed a shit ton of fucking money on this first, and then the second I owed like 111. I mean, so I'm thinking like nobody's gonna like release me out of this shit. I tried to find a real estate agent that would tackle this. Couldn't find anybody. I looked through the fucking phone book. People that I called, nothing. So then it's probably like a week later, my wife's like, you know, like look again, just look again. I'm like, I fucking looked through there. I was like, there's nobody. And then I was living in the Bay Area at the time. I remember going through, came across this ad in the Yellow Pages. It was like, help you sell homes. Something about it. It said it was this lady, Yasumi Davis. And I was like, fuck it. Called her up. She was this Japanese American, very kind lady, and she heard me out on my whole spiel about what was going on. And she's like, yeah, bring your paperwork. Come on in. Drove like 40 minutes to go down to their office. Threw it all out on her lap. She goes, I think I can take care of this for you. Like, but there's a second too. You gonna handle that? She goes, yeah, I'll probably be able to get him to fucking go with it. Jesus Christ. So I was like, all right, signed with her to fucking be able to negotiate on my behalf. I spent like $900, went home, fixed up the house with some shit, put some new bark in the fucking garden, tried to take some nice pictures to put it up on the market. And then I think it wasn't too long later, people started calling saying, yeah, we're interested in this house. And then she started calling the banks and saying like, look, fucking this is a situation, my client, they can't do anything, but we got a buyer who can we can do a short sale process. Anyway, she negotiated things to where the bank was like, fuck it. All right, they'll do it. She called me up. She goes, yeah, the bank's going to go for a short sale. They're going to do this. Man, I was blown away. I couldn't believe that anybody was able to convince these assholes at the fucking bank to fucking to go with this. So then I remember she called the second, I think a few days later, and was negotiating with them. And she goes, all right. She goes, I got your second to basically forgive it was 111,000 that I owed them. She goes, they're going to settle for $10,000. And even that, I'm like, holy shit, like no problem. And then she just kept fucking working her magic, man. She fucking called the new prospective buyers, and she goes, look, she goes, the only thing that's holding you from getting this house is that the Bales, they owe $10,000 to be able to settle out of their fucking mortgage with their second, and then it's in the free and clear. You can buy it. And she goes, how about, she goes, I propose, would you be willing to pay $5,000 and the Bales will pay the other $5,000 to the second? That'll be the $10,000, and then, hey, we'll be good. They kind of thought about it a little bit, and they said, all right, fuck it. And they gave her a check for $5,000. Meanwhile, I'm looking like, all right, no problem. I'll get you $5,000 a few days. She calls me the next day and says, hey, I called the second and told them that I had $5,000 to give them. And they said, they'll take that. Don't worry about the $10,000. She goes, you don't know anything now. the prospective buyer just paid you off. So basically, I got to short sell the house, got to get out of there, got to get out of that. Now the crazy thing was that as we're going through all of this, and I vacated the house, moved everything out into another rental. In the meantime, had housekeepers come and do this final clean out for a huge walkthrough. She said, I have some paperwork that I need you to sign, and then everything's done. She goes, it's important, so I'm just going to bring it over to the house. and you and your wife can sign. She goes, I got a notary coming, and then you'll be done. And I remember her coming back and bringing these papers and being out in front of the house. And me and my wife at the time, we signed all this stuff. Give her a huge hug. Notary took off. She hopped in her car and she's just waving out the window as she's driving off. And I remember turning around to see my wife. She had her hand up in the air. And I fucking gave her a high five and a hug. And then it was like I almost had this like sick deja vu.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like I was gonna throw up. And I was totally feeling just dissociated, just in this fucking weird cloud, and it hit me right at that moment. That's what I did that ritual with King Pyman for. And what I was visualizing as being this representation of everything having come to pass successfully just happened. She held up her hand, high five. I gave her this huge hug. Fucking real estate agent just drove off with the remaining paperwork. We're done. I don't owe anything on this crazy, over twice, twofold, upside down fucking house.
Mm-hmm.
King Pyman got me the fuck out of that. Basically saved me $500,000. So I got a lot of good shit to say about King Pyman.
Bet.
Yeah, I can tell.
But it's shit like that. It's those reality checks that come around when you actually start applying magic.
Mm-hmm.
And you put that into motion. And I still love it. I mean, I'll never get over just the reality of how these things materialize. When you put that into motion, everything falls into place.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it doesn't go the way that you're expecting it to at all. It zigs and zags the whole way there. It's never a straight line that you can just anticipate and sit comfortable with. But you invest in it. You give yourself over to it. 100%. And you wait. You wait for things to happen when they're supposed to happen. But you remove your worry, you remove your doubt, you remove an attachment. And that's why I think what a lot of people get confused with what attachment really is. Not that you don't want the end result. You don't have to not want it. It's just you have to be able to alchemize or transfigure that emotional attachment, that worry, that doubt that it's not going to happen. To be able to turn that on its head into, no, this is what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And feel all warm about it. And when you can alchemize that attachment and you execute that formula of transmutation through what we call magic, and you sit back, a system, and it comes out, and that ball comes out each and every fucking time. Pull that lever, and it fucking comes out. And that's what I love about magic again, as opposed to dogmatic faith, is that magic is a system of verifiability. And if it doesn't work, the fun thing is you can stand back, you can troubleshoot it. You can go, where in this formula did I fuck up? Or did I plug in the wrong integer? It's just like math. I mean, you have everything executed, it comes out on the other side of the equal sign every fucking time. And I think for most people I found, and has been the history for myself early on, most of the time is not making true, authentic, substantial contact with that intelligent force, jumping the gun. But that's what I tell everybody. Take time, connect with that entity. There's no one way to do it. There's plenty of fucking ways, but connect.
Exactly. And I think time is like the most important aspect of things. I feel, because time is the one thing that you can sacrifice to through dedication that you don't get back. There's no getting that back.
Right.
Like you can leave fruit, you can leave wine, you can leave whatever the hell you want to leave, but the thing that matters the most is the time that you truly dedicate yourself to the entities that you're working with, because that is what truly brings notice, that you can't get that back. You are a finite being. You are going to die, and the time that you put in to, an entity, it's without price. It's invaluable.
I love that you say that, man, because time is really the most valuable thing that any of us have. I mean, you can't put a price on it when it all boils down, and you're absolutely fucking right. Giving that entity that sacrifice of your finite time is precious. It's invaluable. It's indescribable as far as what is actually put on that altar of sacrifice as an offering. And your time, your trust, the match and effort and devotion, all of these little things all accumulate, I think, to really establish a true relationship with that entity. And they see through all of the surface coverings on each of us. That connection is so transparent psychically. They know what's in your heart. They know what you think of them, if you appreciate them or not, if you're invested in it. They've already they've got you sized up before you even realize what's going on. So it's amazing, and I love that. Time is such a precious gift and component, I think, in establishing success in these relationships, for sure.
And I think, like, from what I've seen externally, because I've only ever maintained one or two entities that I work with at a time. Like, I've never gone beyond that. Like, primarily, it's been Baphomet and Hel through Norse paganism. Hel is a very big part of that feminine, dark energy. Is I love having it around. It's very motivating.
Yes. Oh man, but it's there's so much that you've said and implied, and I think have really dropped out in between the lines of the importance of establishing those relationships, not rushing it, but immersing yourself into that walk with that entity. And that's the beauty of a true path working, no matter how you slice it. It's that true fusion and getting to know something and become one with it. And chemically evolve and respect that force as well, taking on all of their attributes in so many countless ways. But yeah, I love that we touched on that earlier in our pre-conversation of sometimes people just do this hopscotch, this quick, throw themselves into something, and it's not working, and then they're on to something else, and then I'm not getting any results with that, and then they're just whoring themselves out.
Well, we have a little joke on the show. We call it Goeshaman.
My shirt's been shipped.
You got to catch them all, and there's even a T-shirt that I designed on the web store for the show that says it says Goetia on it.
That's classic.
Because there's a lot of people that get into it that are like, well, we got to work with all of them. Like, you know, and it's like, no. Like, bad things happen. Okay, in my experience, what I've seen, bad things happen when you're not willing to put the time in. Because that's what
That's the thing, yeah.
Yeah, like when you're half-assing it, and you're just going in, oh, I want this with this team, and then you go to the next team and say, well, I want the same thing, and then you're just kind of like throwing it out there, like throwing out lines and hoping like the fish bite. That's when bad shit happens, because you also have to understand some of these entities don't like working together. So
You know, that's true. You can have conflicting natures of these forces, and you bring them into the same sphere, and it's battle time. I mean, they are arch fucking enemies, and that's just the conflict of the very real, tangible nature of what they are. But yeah, it's funny, and then it's literally opening that genie bottle of certain things that are recklessly brought into your life that aren't put away or divorced through. But it's reckless magic that a lot of people, I think, get burned with, and it's. I mean, if you're really going to be a practitioner, you're going to get burned. There's no doubt about that. That's just part of the fucking walk, but you also don't have to be reckless with it, and that's when all the fucked up shit happens. I think sometimes people know just enough to get things to click, unfortunately for themselves.
Yep.
And get the doors and windows to these forces to open, even if ever so slightly, when they were not meant to at that time.
Exactly. All right. On that note, we're gonna call it there. I could easily keep going. But I want to save some other shit for another. Have you on again, and we can get back
look forward to it. I'd be fucking pleasure to come back, and had a great time with both you guys tonight, and it's been an awesome, fun fucking chat, and
it has. But so hold on. I'm not going to let you go just yet. We are going to end the show, but a couple things I want to say after.
Sure.
But so. Everyone, thank you for being here for this extra long episode of the Malice Experience. I'm going to hand it over to Nate to shoot out his wherever you can find him. Give people your socials, your website, what you're doing. Like, just let them know.
Sweet, man. Absolutely. I guess the best way to kind of really dive into anything that I'm doing that's occult related is NateBales.com. It's kind of the central hub for everything that I got going on. Do have a catalytic operation called Four Thrones. It's just in this process of evolving. I should have its own core membership website here, probably in the next few months. I do have my own podcast that's going to be coming up soon called The Indigo Abyss. It's had its own stops and goes as far as getting started, so I'm not going to say any specific date. I'll just say keep your eye open, and the best thing that you could do would probably be subscribe to my my YouTube channel. As soon as things get kicked off with that here in the near future, you should get an alert and see how that ball's rolling. But NateBales.com, man, that's really the best way to see what I got going on.
All right, rock on. Well, for everybody out there, thank you very much for being here for the show. This has been amazing, and we'll see you guys next week. Take care. Peace out.
I don't know, man.